Would you like something? What do you have? I have tea and cereal. What kind of cereal? Grape Nuts and Raisin Bran. Those are like the saddest cereals. The Threesome comes to us from Vertical Entertainment and director Chad Hartigan and writer Ethan Ogilvy, or Old Jilby. I'm not sure which pronunciation is correct, so let's go with both. And this centers around a man named Connor, played by Jonah Howard King, who was Prince Eric in the live-action Little Mermaid fiasco that Disney decided to just pour out into our goddamn faces like gruel. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't Halle Bailey's fault. It certainly wasn't Javier Bardem's fault. But man, that movie, that wasn't even the low point of live-action Disney reimagining remakes that have happened this particular decade. That being said, enough about the live-action Disney adaptation fiasco pile that's just growing like a fungus among us, like the Blob. And Steve McQueen is nowhere near here to stop this. Anyway, so Jonah Howard King plays Connor, a man that is enjoying a drink after a wedding for his friend Greg, played by Jabuki Young White, who works at this bar. It also turns out that a friend of Connor's, Olivia, played by the very gifted and very, very beautiful Zoe Deutsch, who was in Juror Number 2, Electric Boogaloo, as well as The Outfit. The Outfit is a tremendous movie you need to check out. And they've had interactions in the past, shall we say, not just friendly interactions. I mean, that much is obvious from the beginning. And they're just talking a little bit. And Greg points out, hey, wait a second, there's this young brunette over there. Go talk to her, Connor. And this young brunette is Jenny, played by the very, very gifted and very funny Ruby Cruz from Bottoms. I'm so happy to see her in another big project. She was fabulous in that movie. Bottoms, one of my favorite comedies, one of my favorite movies of the past decade. It was so fucking funny. I bought it on digital. That's how much I loved it. But anyway, him and Ruby, him and Connor and Jenny, I'm trying to keep the names straight, start up a conversation. Olivia kind of interjects herself because even though she just likes Connor as a friend, maybe it's more of a thing like, no, he's my friend. You can't have this. We're not going to have this. So they have a party. Then they get a little bit of the freaky deaky. I think you can figure out what kind of freaky deaky because it's a movie called The Threesome. If you aren't understanding what a threesome is, you need to either get out more or get your head out of the Bible. Maybe don't experience the three ways that I have. That's another story for another day. Possibly another court case. Moving on. They have a threesome. And things seem fine. Everything's good. But then, well, it turns out that the aftermath of this particular threesome has some unexpected consequences. And we tipsy, topsy, twisty, turvy. I don't even think that's how that phrase goes. Rom-com, dramedy with some moments that I didn't expect this film to necessarily take, even though the concept isn't necessarily wholly original. The best way to describe this movie is messy, but in the best way possible. This was the Regal mystery movie that I was able to watch, and this is the only one I had not seen one trailer for. Not one. I had seen the poster. I saw that it was going to come out this Thursday or Friday, depending on when you get to your particular theater. And I was going to make a double feature of The Conjuring, Last Rites, and this. Now I don't have to. Now I can go watch Lurkers, Splitsville, and Twinless over the course of a couple days. But let's talk about The Threesome. I loved it. I thought it was great. That was fabulous. I thought there were some laugh-out-loud goddamn moments, some really touching moments, some super awkward, messy moments, but again, in the best way possible, with a tremendous performance by Zoe. Ruby absolutely shines here. I've seen some reviews. I checked them after I posted my own review on Letterboxd, that Jonah wasn't necessarily up for this. I thought he did pretty goddamn good, given the fact that everybody in this movie has flaws and could have gotten out of their situation, or at least alleviated the stress and the anxiety of this particular situation by just being honest about things. But that's the problem when you are in a situation that all of these people are involved in, and there are other people in the periphery. It's sometimes hard to be honest in everything. When life throws you a curveball, you either need to hit it, or you need to get onto the goddamn bench and then hopefully still get your guaranteed money from MLB. I don't think that's how that applies here, but let's move on. Again, really goddamn good. I really enjoyed the performances. I thought there was a magnificent pace to this. I'm a bit surprised this got released in theaters. Not that I don't think it won't make some money, and I can't imagine it costs all that much, but I've seen movies like Turtles All the Way Down, Babes got a theatrical release. But you had Scrambled, that was also quite a bit of fun. There are elements of other movies mixed into this, but I don't feel it's a ripoff. I feel that this is quite fun, and there even is a nice performance from Richard. How would you like to take a trip down Long Street? Who was recently in The Twin. Now, you can check out my review of The Twin. I was less than kind to that, though I do want to shout director J.C. Doller, which I very much doubt he is watching this. I think he's a good filmmaker. I just stand by what I said about The Twin, but I think the guy's got potential. Also, Julia Sweeney is in this, and Julia Sweeney still, knocking it out of the park here, and Arden Marin, and also Josh Segara, who plays somebody that knows Olivia. I'll just say that much. It ends up being quite a bit of fun. It ends up also throwing enough curveballs at you and pacing itself well, and also stay for the end credits. This isn't something that's going to spoil the movie, but there are some outtakes throughout the end credits, which is nice, and it's a breezy hour and 50 minutes. Now, that might seem a little long for a film like this. I was a little bit worried at first, but right from the beginning, when they had, this wedding speech that actually had something to tie it in a little bit later on, I thought that this whole thing was fabulous. I thought it was the way they wrapped it up nicely. Gave the story, not tying up every single loose end, but gave the story enough, just of a push towards a finish where you can appreciate where these characters are compared to where they were in the beginning of the film. So no, not everybody's perfect, and there might be some issues. There might be some moments where the comedy might not work for some people, but I had a great goddamn time with the Threesome. The movie. I haven't had a threesome since my days in college. Anyway, let's move on from that. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So it is in theaters if you want to check it out. So we have this wedding speech for Greg and Matt. I do have to say Greg actually does play a nice, Mr. Young White has a great, character in this. And during this speech, basically, Connor is saying a heart that's afraid to break is a heart that's never used. That is something that's tied back a little bit later on. And it's obvious that when we go to the bar and we see Connor talking to Greg and everything, and Olivia's working there, it's very obvious that Olivia does like him, but they had one little, brief tryst. I don't even think that's a word that's used anymore, but let's just move on. They obviously have some chemistry, and I don't just mean I mean, obviously these two people do care about each other, but while neither wants to not necessarily make the first move, they don't want the other to make a move on somebody else. They get jealous, but they're also, it's just about that much space between them being able to come together. They can, and then they come apart. And when they talk to Jenny, well, Connor talks to Jenny. It's obvious there's sparks right there. And Ruby Cruz, fabulous in this. I mean, really, really fucking... For the fact that I think she's 25, I believe she already has gotten a lot of this awkwardness stuff down as far as dramatic stuff and comedy. I thought she, again, was one of the best parts of Bottoms, which is not a euphemism. And I look forward to seeing her in more projects. But after this dinner, or this meeting at this bar, basically they go out and they party and stuff like that. We get some of the freaky deaky stuff between, it's pretty, Olivia might be a little bit drunk, but still hitting on Connor. Even though she says it will never end up actually happening. It will never be over Ole Anderson. But then Jenny comes back and from using the bathroom, she's like, oh, are you guys doing this? Well, hey, they play truth or dare, this kind of stuff. The two women kiss. Connor gets involved, and they're doing all this stuff. They're just having all this kind of stuff. Great. We don't actually get to really see any of the threesome action, but nevertheless, the next morning, Olivia has taken off. Now, a little bit earlier in that bar scene, she was talking to some guy, that she's kind of had an on again, off again fling with, a guy named Kevin, that's also married. So, she's at a bar, or at some diner or whatever that I guess still exists. And Connor finds out about this after having that interaction that I opened with, what kind of cereal, those are like the saddest cereals. Again, Ruby just pulling this off just great. I don't know why it works with her. She's just effortlessly charming. And she says, hey, I'm going to take a shower if you want to save water. And so he ends up having shower sex with her. If you are in your 20s, it would be hard to resist a girl as attractive as Ruby Cruz. I mean, just saying. So they end up doing that. He ends up talking to Olivia. And Zoe, by the way, is great in this. There's, interaction where a guy is like nearly spitting up his damn drink. And she says, oh, well, you weren't saying that when I was, co-sucking your dick last night, or when we were co-sucking your dick. It's great. It's good stuff. I fucking love it. So all these pieces are going on, and he gets Jenny's number, but he ends up actually him and Olivia end up going out, hanging out, having like some dating stuff for a while, and it's good. And then she reveals that she's pregnant. Oh shit. Oh no. Oh fuck. But the time after, when they find this out, they had just had a first date, so to speak, where she took care, I believe, of her sister's kids, so her sister and her husband could go out and have some fun. And it turns out Connor is actually really, really good with kids, with even singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. And that was nice. And then once we find out about the pregnancy, we get the chapter breaks. We get first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, and go time. But we get a little bit of curveball thrown when Olivia is debating whether she wants to keep the kid or not. Oh yeah, by the way, and Jenny shows up, and Jenny, it turns out, is pregnant too. So right after it seems like things are rolling with Olivia and Connor, Jenny shows up pregnant because of the shower sex. And Olivia also, during this little breakup thing, or during this stuff, she ended up sleeping with Kevin again, who's having problems with his wife. So really, these two messy people, you can tell, kind of are for each other, but kind of aren't. Greg, the character Greg was great, just great here. And as things go on, basically, it turns out that Jenny comes from a really religious family. With Richard, how would you like to take a trip down Long Street? Which I can't help but say that. There are like a few people that are Riff Tracks fans that'll get that. And we don't actually see them for a while. Jenny wants to keep it. Olivia's not so sure. He does go along with Olivia on her trip to another state to take care of the kid, basically. Because, termination laws, all this kind of stuff and everything. Because we can't let women have their reproductive rights or everything. Got that from Ray Gun, by the way. Which actually donates to, proper stuff so women can get health care and decide what to do with their fucking bodies. So she is going to do it, changes her mind, decides not to. And while looking through, while trying to, get some music on Olivia's phone, he sees a text from Kevin. So Connor's trying not to get jealous and everything, but he's ended up getting jealous. And this kind of stuff, whatever. And he's also trying to balance the stuff with Jenny, who still won't tell her parents how this ended up happening. That she has a boyfriend, but they haven't met boyfriend, stuff like that. They end up meeting. I'm not going to get into a bunch of minutia here about this. But I will say from there, we see him trying to be there for Olivia as she's developing, and growing the kid, while also not being together. And he does like Jenny, but he doesn't love Jenny. She wants somebody to be there for her because she didn't plan to have a kid. Olivia thought she wanted to have a kid in a number of years and stuff like that. So really, it is a mixture of babes to a little bit of the same tone. A little bit. Babes, I think it was a lot more gut-bustingly hilarious now that I think about it. But basically what it ends up coming down to is she, had shown up while pregnant and hung out with Kevin again and stuff like that, hung out. And Connor is talking to, Jenny's family, and things are kind of going okay, but you can kind of tell things are a little bit tense between they're tense between Olivia and Connor. They're also tense between Jenny and Connor. And it turns out, and I don't think that Connor's necessarily a bad guy. I think he's trying to do the right thing because he realizes he messed up and he's trying to do this stuff. Really, he's about the only one, I think, that doesn't have as much on him. Olivia could have been honest more about her feelings and stuff like that. Jenny needed to be more honest with her parents. And Connor honestly needed to be just more honest about what happened. But he's also trying to balance the stuff to not hurt either woman and to make sure that the kid, because he always wanted to be a father, so he wanted to make sure these kids are okay. And then, while Greg is like going to Lamaze classes and trying to be like, the one with Olivia, while Connor is there with Jenny. They're at also the same OBGYN. All this crazy stuff's going on. At one point, Olivia gets all upset at Jenny, and Jenny's like trying to be nice and everything. And Olivia says, "You're so nice. What's wrong with you? You're like so nice. What's wrong with you?" And the big twist here is Kevin ends up showing up. It's an hour and 10 minutes in, something like that. I think an hour and 10 minutes in. And he shows up and he basically tells Olivia, about the kid and stuff like that. Hey, by the way, all that stuff about me having a vasectomy, because he said that and everything, and that was something that I could have mentioned earlier, but why? That's the big twist. He didn't actually have a vasectomy. So now the idea is oh shit, it could be his kid. He's going to pay for something to try to keep this quiet so she can get like a prenatal DNA test. And it's like $1,600, and he's like crying and stuff like that and making a mistake. And that's why you either have a vasectomy or you're honest and you just use condom. I mean, guys, I know that sometimes it sucks to wear them, but it's better than paying out for, diapers and baby formula and shit like that, or child support. It's just better to be safe. And she ends up finding out, Olivia gets to the hospital because she's starting to her water breaks. Turns out Jenny's water broke. And then finally, this is after a big, baby shower and everything that the family had, and they're accepting of Connor, even though he's trying to put on a good front. Greg is, the character Greg's great in this. And then the parents, Richard, I would like to take a trip down Long Street, can't help it. And the mother, see, as they're taking their daughter into the hospital, or, down to the maternity ward, oh shit, here's Connor with Olivia. And boom, we get a bit of a fight and everything. Julia Sweeney's there as well. Julia Sweeney, by the way, has some great fucking lines in this. You absolutely need to check out. And we get a bit of a fight and everything. And then it turns out, and yes, Connor probably should have been honest, but at the same time, Jenny also should have been honest with that. I'm just saying, there's blame all around on this thing. And, oh yeah, by the way, the results have come in, and Olivia's kid is not Connor's. It's Kevin's. So, that devastates Connor, no doubt. And he walks out, he's kind of in, the aftermath of the rain, walks back in. Richard Longstreet, not going to say it again, looks like he's going to bow up. He says, "I'm here for the birth of my daughter," because they're both going to have daughters. And he's there, and he wants to be there for Jenny. One, that's his kid. Two, Jenny is a genuinely good person. She's just a little misguided with her admitting of the truth. And Olivia shows up, and these girls have, the two women have a heart-to-heart and stuff like that. And everything's good. Then we go to this big, this, not necessarily a big reveal, but a swing, later on. A few months later. Kids are probably 6 months old, I think. Something like that. Anyway, so, basically Connor has the kid while Jenny and Greg are out because Greg's kind of like the surrogate gay uncle, I guess. And Olivia shows up with her kid. And there was a thing about, a girl named Alice and stuff like that, the name of Alice, and it was in a joke that I'll just leave for anybody to actually, see for themselves. Not going to spoil every single thing. But Connor and Olivia kind of having this back and forth. Olivia realizes she really does love him. Took you long enough. And it looks like they're going to kiss, but then no, he pulls back and then they do end up kissing. So basically, they are going to end up being together despite the fact she has somebody else's kid. Because I doubt Kevin's really there for that, even though I'm sure his wife probably left him at that point. And, Connor has a kid with Jenny and is taking care of the kid and supporting Jenny, but also he's some kind of recording engineer guy, and that must pay like goddamn buco bucks to take care of 2 kids from 2 different women. But I digress. Then it seems like him and Olivia are going to be together, but we then get the outtakes and stuff like that, and we get some funny outtakes. And sure, the movie's sweet and silly, and it has its issues, really, if you try to, like, break it open and peel back the layers and stuff like that. I also think there's a lot of layers to this that work, and I ended up really enjoying this, and I'm going to end up giving it an A+, because I had a lot of fun with this. So I recommend you check out the Threesome. I also recommend if you participate in threesomes, wear a condom, and if it's with 2 women, make sure they're not mother and daughter, because that can get awkward. Moving on from that, if you agree or disagree with what I said, especially about that last part, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland, and until we're in a 3-way again, wear protection, folks. Happy trails to you.